Welcome to the podcast today. This summer, I am going to be playing reruns from episodes with guests that I had on from the very start of the Know Your Ancestors podcast up until last fall. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite interviews that we've had with guests where we talked a lot more about identity and understanding ourselves better through knowing more about our ancestors. So I'm excited to share these episodes with you. If you've been around from the start, then these will be a refresher and you'll be able to hear some of these stories again. But if you're new here, you'll be able to hear some of these episodes of Know Your Ancestors from the very start when I interviewed guests. I shared information about some of their ancestors and shared that with them live on the podcast. So I'm excited for you to hear from some of these guests and make sure you stick around. I'm hoping to have more episodes with guests in the fall after I share a bunch of these of my favorite episodes that we've recorded. Welcome to the Know Your Ancestors podcast. I am sitting here with Brittany MacLeod, our very first guest, and we are so excited to share with her what we have found about her family tree. Jen Schaefer from The Formidable Genealogist is the genealogist that worked on Brittany's case, and we're so grateful for her and for her work with that. And then I was able to compile the information from her and present it to Brittany today. It was actually really exciting to dive into her tree and find some really cool things that I think you will enjoy hearing about. But first, before we get started with that, I just wanted to talk to Brittany about who she is. Introduce yourself to the audience, a little bit about you, your family, what your work is, and we'll go from there.
Hey, I'm excited. Thank you for having me. I feel honored that I'm the first guest. But yeah, my name is Brittany MacLeod. And I am a social media coach and content creator. So I help other women kind of in the coaching space launch their businesses and helping them get started with where do you begin? Like it's so overwhelming. And a lot of it too is helping them kind of overcome fears and all the things that come with that, right? Because obviously there's lots of strategy and different things that we can learn about social media, but then when you boil it all down, it's like I don't actually feel good enough to do this.
Yes.
So that is what my coaching work does. And then for content creation, I do like photography and actually work with businesses to help them, I guess, create content like in 3 days. In one sitting, basically. So kind of like two separate things that are, a little bit intertwined. What else about me? I am from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia in Canada. And my family, I have 2 other siblings that are younger. So I'm the oldest of 3. My mom and dad are like, how much information do you
How
want?
much do you want? Well, first I want to stop about your work. Myself as like I guess I could call myself a content creator. Like I think a lot of people that aren't in that space, it's hard to even understand how much work that is and how much of a mindset that is. Like, so for your coaching to include that aspect of it, I think that that's a huge thing because like creating the stuff, sure, you can follow the steps and do whatever, but there's a whole other part of it that people need help with. So I think that's great.
Yeah. I also have a podcast. I forgot about that.
Yes. And what's that called?
Called On the Edge. So me and my best friend Jackie do that together. Yeah. And it's new. We just literally launched it like within the last year, but it's been so much fun and we're still navigating like what it all looks like and but it's been really fun.
Oh, cool. Okay. So your family, you said you have 3 kids?
I have 3 kids. Yes. I am also the oldest of 3. I have 2 other siblings as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up in your family, like, did you get together with cousins or grandparents very often, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So on my mom's side, I was pretty close with my grandmother, my mom's mom. I would say all of my grandparents actually had a close relationship with them, but I lost my grandmother when I was 8. And then my grandfather both of my grandfathers passed away as well. So I have one grandparent left. But yeah, we were close with grandparents growing up. Cousins, I don't have a ton of cousins. I have a few cousins on my dad's side, but we weren't super close growing up because of some family like divorce and kind of how that
Right.
changes the dynamic of how you get together and do life
Right.
together. So I wasn't super close with my first cousins. It's on my dad's side. And then on my mom's side, it's really funny. My mom has 2 sisters, and I am actually closer in age with them
Oh,
than
funny.
my mom is. My mom had me when she was 18, and these are her technically her half sisters, so she kind of, like, raised them as well, and then we grew up next door to them, so I always felt like they were my sisters/cousins, slash
Mhm.
cousins,
Oh,
but they're
funny.
yeah, and then they had kids, so now they have kids, but they're, like, my kids' age. So,
Funny.
it's interesting, yeah, because I like, "You're my niece and my nephew, but you're not, you're actually my first cousin that is
Right.
same age or, like, 4 months older than my 2-year-old," right?
Oh, funny.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting dynamic whenever I tell people, like, "Oh, yeah, my aunt is coming over," they expect, like, a 60-year-old woman, but I'm like,
Right.
"No, we're friends." Yeah.
Oh, funny. So your dad's family you didn't weren't as close with. Did you know much about them, about their
Oh, yeah.
past great-grandparents or anything?
With my dad's family, not to be completely honest, I feel like I knew nothing about family history. Like,
Okay.
I when you reached out to me, I went down my own, like, little rabbit hole and
Uh-huh.
discovered some things, and I actually, like, messaged my dad, "Did you know I have a great uncle who's, like, buried in Italy and, like, fought in the war?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, like, I have all his war medals." And I'm like, "Right, I remember seeing those growing up, like, in my grandparents' house," but just
Right.
never really connecting the dots and, like, I guess unless you ask these questions, it's not like I mean, I don't sit my kids down and, try to actively tell them about these
Right.
things.
Right.
So I think it's just not something that I guess comes naturally, like, unless
Mhm.
you engage in those conversations. And so that was really interesting. I'm like, "Wait, you knew about this and you didn't tell me?" I was like, "We
Right.
should clear." So, yeah, just to be completely honest, I'm like, I really
Oh,
don't
good.
know that much. So
Okay. Well, we've got some fun stuff, and actually, I found that about him too, so
okay,
so I have a
cool.
little refresher about him.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just dive in,
Okay.
and I'll share with you what we've got. Okay, so some of this you might already know. I don't know if you've seen these pictures. So this is your great-grandparents, so your
Yeah.
great-grandfather, John Ludi and Marie Coakley. So you have very deep roots in Cape Breton, and I love it that you still live there. Like, you still
Yeah.
there, and your ancestor, like, all of your family was from there, it seems like. So here, let me just
He looks so much like my grandfather. It's like,
does he?
oh, yeah, literally, like, identical.
That's cool. So he was a coal miner, lived in New Waterford. His parents were Mark Ludi and Sarah Roach. Mark Ludi was born in Cheticamp, which is I don't even know if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, like, on the opposite side of Cape Breton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When they were married, he was a coal miner, that's what he listed as his occupation, and his wife, Marie, was listed as a domestic servant. They're both Catholic and living in New Waterford at the time of their marriage, and Marie's father was also a miner, so they kinda had this a
Okay.
similar growing up, I'm guessing, with their parents both having the same occupation. So then here is your great-great-grandfather, Mark Ludi, and I feel like this is a poorly colorized photo of Sarah Roach. I
I've
think
never
I think the original picture would look better than that. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the video, the pictures here as we go along. But so Mark was born in Cheticamp. He is French, so it's actually Marceline. I don't even know. You
uh,
probably can speak French.
yeah, no, I can't. But when I looked this up, that's what it came up.
Right, right, yes. Yeah, so he was born there on the other side of Cape Breton. So I started to wonder, what brought them to New Waterford? Like, why did they come
Yeah.
across the island, and where did they meet? Like, how she was born in Isle Madam in Nova
Yeah.
Scotia.
Yeah.
So I found them in the 1901 census. I actually found Sarah Roach. I don't know if you can this is really, really bad quality, but she is listed here right by that arrow is Sarah. I don't know if you can make that out. And then Roach is their last name here. And actually right next door, if you can see that, that's Ludi, spelled with EE at the end. So your maiden
Yeah.
name is Ludi,
Yeah.
Leudy. And you'll see that the spelling of that kind of changed over the years.
Yeah.
So Ludi, EE at the end, and this is Marceline. This is actually your great-great-grandfather's uncle, he had the same name, and his mother, Marguerite, who's here at 80 years old. So this is your, let's see, great-great-great-grandmother. So she was living with her son, Mark, in French, which was the uncle of your Mark, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they were right next door to the Roach family. So that might have been how they met. Maybe he was visiting his
Wow.
grandmother, his uncle. They're living next door. I mean, they were also in Cheticamp, which isn't very big, so I'm sure they knew otherwise, but they lived close by.
Wow.
So then I believe that in 1907, the Dominion Coal Company started operating in New Waterford.
Mhm.
That drew in lots of workers from across the island, and Irish and Scottish Catholic people came there. And I think that's likely when Mark Ludi came to the area. Then him and Sarah were married the year after in 1908 in Reserve Mines, which is nearby.
Yeah.
Sure, you know where that is.
Yeah.
And this was likely the church that they were married in 1908. So this is a church in that area that was built in 1895. So that's likely where they were married. So they settled in New Waterford, where he was a coal miner by trade.
And sorry, wait, this is Mark.
This is Mark and Sarah. Yeah, so this is your great
Great.
great grandparents.
And John was as well.
He was a coal miner. Yes. Yeah, in the
And so
same
was my
area.
grandma. I don't know if I mentioned.
Was he? Oh, cool. So
Yeah.
they were all coal miners.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so the area I looked into, like, coal mining there, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that was, like, the largest kind of occupation that was there in the area, and then they're all closed down now, right?
Yeah.
All of the
Yeah.
coal mines?
That is
Yeah.
wild. I'm like, maybe my dad knew this, but, like, I didn't know that there were traditions of.
Right. Yeah, so in 1917, there was, like, the largest explosion of and fatalities of coal miners in New Waterford. I think they even have, like, a monument there to commemorate this. So that was in 1917, so he might your great-great-grandfather, Mark, he might have been there at the time. We don't know if he was working, if he was in that exact coal mine, but 65 coal miners lost their lives. There was 270 miners working at the time, just methane gas and coal dust that accumulated in the shaft due to poor ventilation
Mm.
ignited and resulted in this large explosion. So this is a photo actually from that day, and he might be in there. I don't know.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So then I also found, so this is the private Anthony Ludi who you were
Mhm.
talking about. He was Mark's brother. Oh no, this was Mark's son. That's right. So
Yeah.
Mark and Sarah, they had at least 7 children, at least that I could find. Your great grandfather, John Ludi, was likely the oldest. Then his
Mm.
younger brother, possibly the youngest in the family, was killed in battle in World War II. And he was part of the Cape Breton Highlanders and died in action in Italy. So this is just an article that's actually on the Government of Canada's website. They have like a little monument thing about him. This was printed in the newspaper, just an article about him that says another of New Waterford's young soldiers has made the supreme sacrifice on a battlefront overseas, according to word received yesterday. So I'm sure that was a hard thing for one, your great grandfather to lose his younger brother, and for
Yeah.
your great great grandparents to lose a son over.
And the name changed again.
Yes,
LU.
EDY. Yes. Yeah, so then I found this photo, which is actually the Cape Breton Highlanders in Italy, just in one of their operations there the year prior in May 1944. So he died in January of 1945, just as the war was finishing up. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of your great-great-great-grandparents, great-grandparents, a little about them, starting coal mining and all of that. What do you think about what life might have been like them as coal miners, as that way of life? What do you think about that?
It it sounds and looks like super gritty.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah, and not knowing that, like, not knowing that there were 3 generations of that, I feel like it actually explains a lot about who I am. Like, obviously, I'm not a coal miner, but actually, it's funny that I use that word because I have been described that word has been used to describe me before,
A
like, from
minor.
no, gritty.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I think there's, like there's some good and bad that comes with that. You know, there's
Mhm,
the yes, gritty can be a really good thing, but there's also a striving that can come with that, and
mhm,
I've definitely experienced that in, being in business for as long as I've been in business. There's always been that part of me that is, I love to work hard, and that
mhm,
obviously is probably in my DNA, but yeah, there's some, I think, belief systems around that
mhm,
maybe that I'm working through now, actually, like, as we
mhm,
speak, that I'm trying to push through, and, the belief that, in order to succeed, like, you have to work hard,
mhm,
and that is true to a certain extent, but there's also another set of beliefs that I have that don't fully align with that, and,
mhm,
there's a difference between working hard and you know, working to the bone or, pushing
mhm,
yourself and not having any balance. So that's something that I've had to work through, becoming a mom, having a business, all of that, wrestling the balance as I guess we would all moms in business or working moms would have to do. So I don't know, for me, seeing that, it feels like it makes sense. Like
mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people come from that background, like, it feels like there wasn't another option then.
Yeah.
They had to work to put food on the table, like,
Yeah.
there was not social media or something easy like that to bring in some sort of income, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think it is hard to escape that mentality of you just gotta put your head down, work hard, even if you hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think for me and I would say actually my dad, because my dad's not a coal he wasn't a coal miner, but my dad, like I mentioned, my parents had me when they were pretty young. My parents are still together today, and my dad ended up going back to school to become a nurse. And he was, like, in his 20s, like, and at the time, I remember I was just a kid, but he actually had to go back to the high school that he didn't graduate from, so he had
Mm,
because they didn't have night classes back then, so I remember
right.
my dad starting over, and I didn't know this at the time, but later found out, like, his family, they probably thought, like, "What is it? What are you doing?" Like, nobody went to school, like,
Right.
I guess they were all coal miners or they did labor like that, so it was
Mhm,
very outside the box and not something that I think people thought that he could do.
mhm,
And then obviously my story is that I actually didn't go to school. I'm dropping out of school and I'm on the internet and I
mhm,
make a living from Instagram and social media and it's something totally different. So I think it's really
mhm.
interesting to see that lineage and where it kind of like broke off at my dad, like
Right.
kind of wild. And so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and we might see some of that spirit of change the further back we go on your tree. All right, well, I'm gonna show you this. So this is just to show you what we have so far. We have Mark Ludi, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so your second great grandfather was Mark Ludi, born in Cheticamp in 1885. And his father was John Ludi, also born in Cheticamp in 1854. His father was Oliver or Olivier Ludi, born in Cheticamp also. Then his father, here's where our missing link comes. Louis Marie. Now I'm not sure how you actually would have said this in French, but we'll call it Ludi, but he spelled it Lehuede. Now he was born in 1817, but where was he born?
Mm.
He died in Cheticamp. That's where he ended up. But that is kind of our big question of where did he come from? Now I mean,
Yeah.
based on his name, where do you think he came from?
I don't I'm like France. I don't know.
Yes, that's right.
I was
Okay,
like,
but
wait,
how
where do you
is
have
this a real question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but how he got to Cape Breton is quite an interesting story. Okay,
Okay.
so at this time, just wait, I just see that I have his birth wrong. That's his son. Like was not born
Yeah,
in
right.
1817. He
Yeah,
was born
that
in
was
1785. Okay, so
right.
Louis Marie Ludi, he was born in 1785. In the early 1800s, that was the Napoleonic Wars. So France was fighting with England, and they were, had these huge warships, so they'd be fighting in or whatever. So we came across this kind of a tall tale. We weren't sure, the genealogist that worked on your family, she wasn't sure if it really had any merit to it. But the story was that Louis was on like a prisoner ship coming up from the Caribbean that was somewhere off the coast of Cape Breton, or maybe it docked at Cape Breton, and that he escaped. That he left the ship and came to Cheticamp. So we weren't totally sure if that was right. Who knows? People like to kind of, make their past seem more exciting than it is. But we actually found that there is some merit to that story. So we found it would have been one of your cousins, Barbara LeBlanc. She has done a ton of research on this Louis Ludi, about him and his origins and kind of what his life was like, and has brought his ancestry all the way back to 1619.
Wow.
So what we know for sure is that he was a French sailor. We don't know if he was a prisoner or not for sure, but on a ship, I'll just read what it says from this history book of Cheticamp. It says, a number of French sailors sought nothing more than to flee the inhumane conditions they suffered on the warships and other boats. Thus it was that in 1806, 5 French sailors, Servant and Nazar Lefort, and their brother Francois, as well as Louise Ludi and Pierre Chapeladon, had deserted a frigate and sought refuge on our coasts. They left the boat in Cape North and walked from there to Cheticamp. No doubt fearful of bringing more trouble onto themselves, the residents of Cheticamp opposed the settlement among them of these 5 sailors. These refugees understood the situation and went to the Magdalen Islands. Later, Francois Lefort, Louis Ludi, and Pierre Chapeladon returned to Cheticamp and became the ancestors of all those in Cheticamp who carry their names.
Wow.
So what do you think about that?
That's wild.
I like,
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. That's crazy.
right.
That's a war
And
boat.
that's what I was thinking, like that desire to kind of change your circumstance.
Yeah.
That maybe your father was, I mean, it took a few generations for that to be reignited, I guess, but that's there. Like Louis, he's like, I don't like this being on this ship. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Canada doesn't seem so bad, right?
Wow. That's crazy. It's funny that you said at the beginning of this, you're like, and you're still in Cape Breton. We actually like weren't in Cape Breton, and
Oh,
we
really?
are here, but we're like here temporarily because we're like trying to leave, but we don't know
Oh, really?
exactly. Yeah, we were in South Carolina for like 10 months and had, started the process of visa application and then kind of just decided to step away and felt
Mm,
like we were supposed to come home. But we're, in the process of like revisiting that and not really sure, like, our circumstances right now are a little bit up in the air. But yeah, there's a desire for us to be somewhere else. And we love
mm,
Cape Breton, but we don't know if this is where we want to be for the entire year, mostly because I
mhm.
don't love winter. But,
I understand that.
so I find that interesting because I do feel even being home right now, there's things that you have to wrestle through when you leave, when you come back, and when you're from a
Mhm,
small town. And there's, we all have lots of limiting beliefs, but one of them that I've had to work through is like, you're supposed to, like, you always come home. Like,
mm,
you always go back to where you came from, or like, yeah, it's just at some point you have to settle down and like move home.
mm,
And that's actually not true, you know?
mhm.
And as
Yeah.
much as I love having family around my kids, it's like, I actually want something more.
Mhm,
I believe that you can have more than one thing. And so that's
mhm.
kind of the life that we're trying to build for our family right now
Right.
is, living somewhere else most like for half of the year and then maybe being home for a few months of the year. And,
Mm,
and that's been, I guess, mentally and also in the physical realm, a hard thing to accomplish. So
mhm.
yeah, that
Yeah. So maybe you can channel some of that energy from
probably,
from Louis
yeah. Wow.
and embark on some adventure, right?
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
so Louis, when he was in Cheticamp, he met Angelique Godet, and they married. She was only 18. He was 27. They married in August of 1813. And actually on their marriage document, Louis signed his name. So he was able to read and write, which was not a common thing at the time.
Okay.
So he must have been educated.
Hmm.
And then, according to baptismal certificates in the parish, he and Angelique had 7 children, 4 boys and 2 girls who survived, and 1 child who died at childbirth. And then only 2 boys reached adulthood. So as a result, there's only a small number of descendants who actually carry the Ludi name. So there's only 2 of his sons that survived. So we know that he was from France, but we were actually able to find out where he was born in France. And this woman, Barbara LeBlanc, who she wrote a whole article about him that we got a lot of our information from, but she went back to France and talked to other Ludis that still live there in the neighborhood. She says there's Ludis all over the place there. And I was able to talk to them, find about, what their occupations were, what things were like for them there. They actually found some documents about Louis Ludi. They found that he was born in, I don't know how to say this, Le Poulian Bat-Surmer in Brittany, France. Okay, so it's in the northwest of France.
Okay.
On this document, it said how tall he was. He was about 5'5", and he had auburn hair and eyelashes. So I guess auburn eyelashes also. So let me just
I didn't know there was a Brittany, France.
There is. Oh, yes. I didn't even clue in. Your name is Brittany. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah. So Brittany, France is up. I'm not sure exactly where the border is, but it's in this region here. So Paris is right here. And then he was born along the coast over right on the western coast by Nantes. All these French words that will take me back to junior high. But yeah, so he was born there, and we zoom in a little bit. So he was born in this area here, Le Poulian, which is part of Bat-Surmer, right
Oh,
along here. So this is really coastal
yeah.
and probably a really cool area to visit because it's very old.
Yeah.
So this is actually the church where he was baptized in 1785. So this is the church in Bat-Surmer. It was built in the 14th century. It's called Saint Quinole. And you can see all these, cobblestone or stone houses and everything is all kind of nestled in there. And this is inside the church. So he was baptized there, and his parents were also married there the year before in 1784. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It
Yeah,
looks like a huge town. I should probably go.
you should. So this is from that woman, Barbara LeBlanc. This is what she's been able to find about your heritage. So Olivia Louis D. Yeah, was born in 1817 in Cheticamp. That's let's go back here if I can remember. He's your 4th great grandfather. Okay. And then we go to Louis, his father. So your 5th great grandfather was the one who came from Brittany, France to Cheticamp. And then she was able to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more generations to Olivia Ludi, who was born in 1619 in the same place. So their family was there for a long time in Bat-Surmer or Bourges de Batz in Bretagne, France. So she spoke in her article about visiting cousins there, people that have researched the Ludi line a ton, and she would see mailboxes along the street with the Ludi name on it. And so
How is it spelled?
like this, so the Lehuede,
Okay.
so that's the original spelling, but then it was changed through the years, I'm sure, because people
Right.
couldn't read it very well. And a lot of people at that time couldn't read. I'm not sure if Louis, because he could. I'm not sure if he taught his children how to read and write. But sometimes just when they're telling their name to people, it gets written down as a different spelling than
Okay.
originally.
I've always wondered that. I'm like, how many different ways can this name possibly?
Right. Well, and actually let's go. Your great great grandfather Mark, his father was John. And he left Cheticamp for a time and at some point he left and went to Newfoundland. And I guess that's kind of the time period when it changed from Leudee to Y. So
Okay.
I'm not sure I don't know, he changed
Yeah.
it or whatever,
Yeah.
but that was kind of when that changed. So these Luidis in Brittany, France, they were all salt miners, I think is what it was called. salt extractors. So they worked in the salt marshes that were off the coast there, and they would extract salt and sell it. That was their occupation. Like, so that farthest back ancestor, Olivier, that was born in 1619, that was his occupation. He earned a living getting salt. So we
Interesting.
looked up, like, this Barbara LeBlanc, who researched all of them, looked up what a salt marsh worker even did. So
Yeah.
they had all these little pools where when the tide came in, it would get there and they'd kind of build up fortresses around it, let it dry out, have the salt there, and form it into these little piles of salt that then they would sell. So if you get some French salt from that coast, you can think about your ancestors, that's how they earned a living. That's how they by getting
That's
this salt that they called it's the whitest, finest salt. It's called fleur de sel.
so
So,
cool.
yeah.
That is so
Yeah. So that is what we were able to find. The genealogist that I had on it her website is a formidable genealogist, and she was able to do a lot of work. And she actually connected with someone who invited her to a Facebook group that was for the Ludi family. That's where she found that story about Louis, you know, escaping the ship and all of that. And so we're grateful to her for her work for finding more about your family.
yeah.
So how does that feel now that your family line goes all the way back to Brittany, France, which your name is Brittany, and I didn't
Yeah.
even clue into that until said that. How does that feel?
I'm like, wow, that's so much to take in. Like,
Mhm,
I just find it so fascinating. I feel like I'm gonna have to like sit in it and like, yeah, even making those like correlations and connecting it to like who I am today. I mean, I'm
mhm,
sure most people, we all ask ourselves who we are, why am I the way that I am? And I was so excited when you reached out because I think that there's so much like valuable information that is,
mhm,
maybe it doesn't seem like it's connected, but it totally is.
mhm,
Like these limiting beliefs and our mindsets and, it's like, why do I think this way? And I just think there's so much treasure in knowing where you come from.
mhm,
And I think it's interesting too that Louis like lived on the coast. So my husband, his oldest brother did a lot of family tree research and stuff, and I haven't dug into his side of it, but both my husband and I are like, we cannot live not near the water.
mm,
Like, it's just we did when we were in South Carolina, we were like 3 hours from the coast, but I'm like 3 hours too far. Like, as much as we loved it, we loved the people, it was like, I don't actually think we can commit to staying here, like, we
mhm.
need to be somewhere coastal. So it's just fascinating that, what was it, 1600, like,
Yeah, 1619,
I can't even
and I'm sure from before then even that your family has been living right next to the water. Yeah,
on water.
right.
And we're both like my husband too, he's like, "We just can't do it." And
Mm,
I remember the first time I lived away, I moved to London, Ontario, shortly after we had gotten married, and my husband, he's from Cape Breton, but he ended up his family moved there and he grew up there, so he moved there when he
mhm,
was like 10 or 11, but I had never been before, and I remember just being so excited to, like, live somewhere else, and then we get there, like, hadn't even visited, like, I think I was there for a few weeks before I realized, like I know this sounds so dumb, but it was just like I never ever imagined, like, I never consciously thought about the fact that, like, there's tons of people that don't live by the water.
there is.
And I was like, "Oh, wait, like, I can't like, I'm looking at the water right now." So, it's
Wow.
just it's a part of, yeah, of what I'm used to, and when you don't have it, you're like, "Oh, dang, like, I can't do this." So, that was the first experience, and then I did it again last year and was like, "Right, we can't do
Mm,
this." We like South Carolina, but maybe Charleston.
right.
You know? No, I have so many thoughts, but then at the same time, I'm like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I just think
Mhm,
it's so cool. I think the work that you do is incredible, and I'm excited to even, like, continue to listen to other episodes that you do with other
mhm.
people. Like, it's just yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am very grateful for you to be here on the episode today, and it was a lot of fun to look through your family. There's so much cool things and things that we just didn't have time to share either. So we'll be sending you all of that we found. So yeah. Thank you so much, Brittany, for being here on the episode. Where can people connect with you? I know you have an Instagram account where you share most of your things. What's your Instagram handle?
Is just my name with an underscore. So Brittany MacLeod _. But yeah, that's where I'm
Awesome.
hanging.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brittany.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast today. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for new episodes every Tuesday. And if you have a minute, can you please go leave a rating and review on iTunes? This is a great way to get more people listening to the podcast and to help us grow. So thanks so much for listening today, and we'll see you next time.